Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We are buzzing as always. Guys, finally into June. Some good weather coming around the corner. And this lad who we are having on the show today, last week was in Vegas for the Bitcoin conference, and that sounded pretty fun. We had a couple guests who were at the conference last week, tons of friends, didn't make it, I was in consensus, but today is going to be a Bitcoin focused epi, and it is one of, I don't want to say, I hate the word bullish, but I think this company is going to go parabolic. And obviously I'm not invested. If I am, I always let you guys know, but this is something that I genuinely think is a huge use case, and we need more of that in crypto. Zac Townsend on the show today, co-founder and CEO of Meanwhile, the world's first Bitcoin-denominated life insurance company. He is on a mission to transform how people save and transfer wealth across generations through Bitcoin. They secured a $40 million Series A funding round, and Meanwhile is expanding its reach to bring Bitcoin-based financial solutions to a global audience facing currency debasement and inflation risk. Zac, welcome to the show, my friend. Pumped to have you on. Can't wait to get into this.
Yeah, thanks so much. Happy to be here, Matt.
Let's go back to first base here. Heck, let's go back to like home plate before you even got to first base here. Tell, I don't want to go back into the tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, blah, blah, blah. They can go with that if they want, but give me that light bulb moment. When did you have that moment where you were like, holy shit, tons of people
Bitcoin life insurance
who have made the right decision and have bought Bitcoin, unfortunately pass away. They have nowhere to give it to. It's an absolute shit show. And then the life insurance aspect as well on top of that. Let's go right back to home plate. Tell me how you got the idea, because again, so interested and can't wait to learn more about this.
Yeah, we came at it from a slightly different angle, which is my co-founder and I were ready to start a new company together. We're old friends, been sort of thinking about doing a company together for maybe like 15 years. And we really believe in Bitcoin. And we believe that there's going to be a Bitcoin economy, that there's going to be like a Bitcoin economic system. You know, it has some unique features, like it's global and decentralized and outside the control of any government, but also that it, in some ways is inevitable. It's just a great store of value. And so we sat down and we came out from that angle being like, okay, if we thought about this as an economy, what are the financial institutions, because we're fintech guys, what are the financial institutions that exist in every single economy? And we made a list and we're like, okay, there are exchanges and there are payments companies and there are banks and there's this and there's that. And actually on that original list, we did not have instructions. We didn't think of it. And then we kept working on it. And maybe a week later, I actually woke up in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m, like flash of genius, and was like, there should be a Bitcoin life insurance company. And I went to my office and I wrote a memo that became the memo we raised our seed round on. And it's sort of crazy to say, we've been at it for 3 years. We've basically done exactly what I came up with that night, which is we created a life insurance company entirely denominated in Bitcoin. We domiciled it in Bermuda, which is like the insurance capital of the world. And then a lot of the memo is about how we're going to start with products that are for basically high net worth people to, do tax and estate and protection planning around Bitcoin. So like our minimum policy size now is 1 Bitcoin. We can talk about that. But, that's like relatively big, or quite big, I'd say. And then that we want to systematically move sort of down market, serve more and more people. And our ultimate vision is that hundreds of millions or maybe even billions of people could save for their retirement or protect their kids or save intergenerationally using our products. And that is quite motivating for us. Anyway, that's both how I came up with the idea and for the overall vision that we've executed.
So were you asleep at 2 a.m. or were you just still buzzing? Mine was racing.
I was asleep. I shot out of bed.
This was
Bitcoin life insurance.
Did you see the Matthew McConaughey Gold movie? You ever see that?
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. He literally, he was in bed. He woke up from a dream and was like, damn, I got to go to, I think it was like Indonesia or something or whatever. But he's like, I got to go find this gold. That's literally what you did with the digital gold.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah. And then we've done it. Yeah. It's sort of crazy.
Let's take a step back. And this is, again, a bit of a weird one. I don't think we've ever explained a non-crypto term on the show before. We do have a good amount of normie listeners, and of course, mostly Web3 degens like us. But normally we don't, Zach. Normally we don't explain Web2 terms.
But
Heck,
like,
this is a
what is life insurance? Yeah.
yeah. Tell me about life insurance. What exactly is life insurance?
Yeah. Its most basic is this truth that's sort of unpleasant to think about, which is that we're all going to die and we don't know when.
Yep.
And from that, the idea is that if you get enough people together, you start to like have certainty about how many of those people are going to die. So what I mean by that is like, I don't know when nobody knows when I'm going to die. But if we take like 10,000 people like Zach, you can start to say like, oh, well, let's use 1,000. 1,000 people like Zach. We know that 3 of them are going to die this year. So what you do at its start is you say, okay, well, there's 1,000 of us. 3 of us are going to die. We don't know who. Let's all put $1 into a pot. Now we have $1,000. And then when the 3 people die, they each get $333. And that way we're all protected against this chance that we're going to die. We all walking around with this liability, which is like the chance we're going to die, but we just don't know who it's going to be. That's like the original heart of the insurance business. That's equally true for car accidents and,
exactly. Insurance 101.
Insurance 101. Then what happens is that you begin to realize, or governments realize in particular, or society, that we really prefer that people buy life insurance to not buy life insurance because we don't want like orphans and widows to starve.
Yeah.
So what happens is that there are tax incentives and like tax privileges for life insurance products. And then
guys, this is where you turn the volume up and listen in right now. This is the alpha you're looking for.
That's the alpha, right? So then, like any sensible, thing you want to incentivize through a tax code, there are like structures and privileges built up around, those tax rules. So our policies, I'll explain the policy, but at heart, there's just all these truths about life insurance. Like it passes to your beneficiaries tax-free. Any compounding that's happening inside the policy is tax-free. If you do the right sorts of things with the product design, you can take a loan out of the policy tax-free, including capital gains tax-free. So these are just things that are true of all life insurance policies in the United States and Canada too, mostly. And a ton of other places around the world, they just like have taxes, tend to have like tax privileges. So you have the core protection of like what happens if I get hit by a bus, and you like layer on these, tax and estate planning aspects of it, and you end up with a product that's really attractive. So that's life insurance before we get to the Bitcoin part.
Yeah. And guys, the reason why, and Zach, great job explaining that. The reason why I wanted to ask that question for those who aren't aware, I just turned 30. For the last 5 years, Zach, I've been getting hammered by all my friends, and I do have, I don't know why, but quite a bit of friends in the life insurance business here in the Greater Toronto area, and they all want me on their platform. Hopefully not, because I'm going to die soon, knock on wood, but again, because they can make some money
actually,
out of
your
me.
life insurance company really doesn't want you to die.
Yes, that is true. They want to keep compounding.
No one is more incentivized than us to, wish you long life, and the more obsessed you are with Brian Johnson, the better. That's our perspective.
Well said. Yes, very well said there. So shout out the Blueprint. Going back to that, the reason why life insurance is so powerful and why the providers themselves make a lot of money and why you can make a lot of money is for those tax benefits. And it's a way to just compound your wealth without getting wrecked in the traditional ways to invest. That is the whole gold mine. So just for the listeners, again, do your research. Again, follow Zach on Twitter. Follow me meanwhile on Twitter. You guys can learn more about life insurance as a whole. And now let's get into the Bitcoin stuff.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin moment you thought about life insurance, you thought about Bitcoin, the first one to combine the two. What makes you guys unique, and why would someone want to take out a Bitcoin life insurance policy?
Yeah, let me start with the second one by just saying, like, there's real alignment between the idea of hodling, the idea of like saving intergenerationally, the idea of like retiring your bloodline, and life insurance. Like, I know the like words we use, like life insurance sounds so boring, and like retire your bloodline sounds so exciting. But those are like the same concepts, right?
A lot of synergies.
So let me go to the first part. Like, we are a regulated, licensed life insurance company. That means a lot of boring stuff that no one has to worry about, like we have a chief risk officer and a chief compliance officer and like, like an independent board and all this stuff that makes us a life insurance company. And then what special about the life insurance company is that it's entirely in Bitcoin. So people pay us premiums. That's like the money you owe us in Bitcoin. But then importantly, the promises we make you are entirely in Bitcoin.
Mm.
Now, from a company perspective, what's cool about that is then the price of Bitcoin doesn't matter, right? If you paid me in Bitcoin and I owe you Bitcoin, then in between, if the price of Bitcoin, like we've been running this company, the price was at, I don't know, like 30 when we started, and then it went to 15, or maybe it went to 70, and then it went back down to 15, and then like it's in the in the hundreds now. But none of that mattered for like the insurance company. Like we do our audited financials entirely in Bitcoin. We do all our insurance reserving. We do all our regulatory filings in Bitcoin, right? So if you're running an insurance company in Swiss francs, you don't wake up and say, "Oh, what's the exchange rate with a dollar?" It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And same for us. It just like doesn't matter that there's this like up and down motion. But from our policyholders' perspective, sort of back to hodling, like we fundamentally believe, they believe that Bitcoin is going to be a durable store of value, like decade over decade. Maybe not day over day, maybe not month over month, but like decade over decade, Bitcoin is going to not only retain its value, but it's going to become more valuable. So like we just have this fundamental question when we're talking about the policy, which is like, do you want your loved ones, whether that's your serious girlfriend, your wife, your kids, your niece and nephew, whoever it is, do you want your loved ones to get $1 million or 10 Bitcoin
Yeah.
when you die? And fundamentally, particularly if you think you're going to live a long time, I think the answer is 10 Bitcoin. So we built an entire company around like that fundamental reality that like this is a global, decentralized, inflation resistant store of value outside the control of any government. And like that is the perfect currency for your life insurance policy. And then as we were just talking about, you get all these tax benefits. These
Yeah.
are that ice settings.
100%. Well, like walking through a couple of these, like the tax advantage gap, like how Bitcoin holders can, leverage traditional finance tools, life insurance being obviously the one we want to talk about, but like walk me through the value props. And again, normally a guest doesn't come on the show and I'm just like, hey, like pumping their tires and ask them about the best parts about their company. But again, this is
We
very
are
unique.
amazing, Matt.
No
Look,
one's done this though.
yeah,
And I
we
want
are
the
the
people to
first, the
know,
only, the
and I want the
best.
people to learn about it, So tell me about
Yeah,
like
yeah,
why
yeah.
the benefits besides if you give Zach 10 Bitcoin right now, would you rather have $1 million in 50 years or 10 Bitcoin? Again, I'd rather have 10. We get that, but like walk us through some of the nuanced, not loopholes per se, but the nuanced bits of alpha that you guys provide as well.
Yeah, I would never use the word loophole. These are
No,
just
you know what I
the
mean.
standard. This is the same pitch you're gonna get from a big
Yeah.
insurance company. Well, let me just start by actually explaining the basic mechanics, which is like our product is it's a whole life product, so it lasts your whole life.
Mm.
And because, as I said, you will eventually die. Again, blueprint notwithstanding. Hopefully, that's in many decades to come. But you will eventually die, so there will eventually be a payout. So in that way, it's much more of like an investment product, like for your loved ones over time. So we use the example of 10 Bitcoin. You pay over 10 years, so you might pay 1 Bitcoin a year for 10 years. So you paid us 10, and then we promise you a fixed guaranteed payout. I'll just say that's 15. It depends on your age, your health, your sex, whether you smoke, whatever. But like,
Yeah.
so hypothetically, we'll say 15. So then what are the benefits? So the first benefit is that you get protection, right? You get hit by a bus after you've paid the first premium, then you will get, or your beneficiaries will get 15 Bitcoin. The second thing after the protection is we're churning 10 into 15, and we can talk about how we do that. There's not necessarily a great history on people doing that, but we're very conservative, sort of very institutional, very careful, and we earn yield on Bitcoin. We churn that 10 to 15. Even if you were doing exactly what we were doing and you felt super great about it, you would be owing income tax every year on that income.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're able to get to 15 through that compounding, and we get further than you would because that's like it's a tax-free compounding. The third thing is that, as I mentioned, it goes to your beneficiaries tax free. So when they receive the payout, they don't owe any taxes. The fourth thing is, and this is just, again, just a feature of how these policies work, how we made sure to follow the rules, is that you can borrow from the policy tax free. You've put in 10 Bitcoin, you're in year, whatever, 15 after you've paid all, or after you started the policy. And you could borrow a Bitcoin out of the policy, but that is like a new Bitcoin to you. It's a fresh, new tax basis Bitcoin. And why that's important is that then if you ever need liquidity from some of your Bitcoin, this is like tax-free liquidity. No capital gains tax, no tax between now and then. And unlike some other borrowing opportunities, we're lending you Bitcoin and we actually don't really expect you to pay it back. We expect you to just eventually die and the loan gets netted out against the benefit to your kids.
Gotcha.
So if you've borrowed that one, there's some interest that you're paying us. So let's call it like 1.1 or 1.2. Then you die, and instead of getting the 15 in the example, your kids end up getting like 13.8, right?
Gotcha.
So they just get a little less. But what's nice about that, no margin calling,
Yep.
no collateral to post,
Yeah.
no possibility of getting blown out. It's just like this, again, like classic thing that a boring incumbent life insurer would pitch you, like these tax-free policy loans. And then the last benefit that we talk about is just like, look, we are like under a legal obligation to make sure that your beneficiaries get your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And there's just like some really crappy stories about like somebody dies
They get
and the
hosed,
wife doesn't know like where the keys are, how to do it. So we just like talk to people about this, like this legacy management, both the like financial legacy you're leaving, but then just the like practical operational legacy, making sure your loved ones get your Bitcoin.
That's awesome. Zach, you're on a roll here. We got to take a quick break and give a huge shout out to our sponsor to the show when we get back. We are going to keep buzzing on everything Bitcoin, life insurance, and meanwhile related. Huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love the team at Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that's CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Zach, I hate to be this guy, but you brought up a great point. I also love the humility when you said, yes, we offer yields, and yes, this has gotten people into trouble in the past. I love that you said that. You know,
might as well be honest, right?
No, 100%. It's not like, Terra Luna was 100% legit and FTX and everyone else who did this. How do you guys get your yields? I know the answer to this, but you got to give this to our listeners. How do you guys legitimately, safely, and institutionally snag your yields in order to pass those along to your customers?
I'm going to answer the question by just like taking a little bit step back and go back to where I started, which is like, we believe there's going to be an economic system entirely in Bitcoin. And we built a company for that. And that means that there are going to be capital markets and there's going to be debt capital markets. And like, we have to figure this out. So what we do, I'll tell you a little bit about one of the lending programs we do, but generally what we have that other people in like crypto and Bitcoin don't have is like, we have time on our side. Users trust us with their Bitcoin for decades. So we have duration. And what we do is we go to institutional counterparties. I mean, these are like names, like some of them are public, some of them have public rated debt. And we lend them Bitcoin and we are able to lend to them for a year or two. We don't really ever lend across a halving, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but we lend to institutional counterparties and then we like do real product credit. Like we do credit analysis. We like negotiate 100-page lending agreement. We got covenants, seniority, what legal entity are we against? Like we are not doing overnight uncollateralized lending. We're doing like heavy duty, like trades where we offer duration and we get credit protection. So that's at the heart of what I've done. We have been doing credit in Bitcoin since about when we started the company. So like February 2022. And that includes BlockFi blowing up, FTX blowing up, Voyager blowing up, Genesis blowing up. and we have never had a credit loss. But on the other hand, if you do all the math in that like 10 to 15, we are not offering 70% yields or 17% yields. There are no 7% yields or 17% yields in Bitcoin that you should put in a life insurance company.
Yeah.
We target like 2.5% yields, 3% yields. Super safe, lots of credit protections, lots of protections against like bad stuff happening. I'll give an example of this product that we like figured out, which is itself just a like arbitrage around the fact that Bitcoin is a commodity in the tax codes in most places,
Hmm.
which is we do a repurchase agreement, a repo, where you send me Bitcoin and has a low tax basis. Do you mine Bitcoin when it was at $1,000? You can't do anything with that Bitcoin. You don't want to sell it. You can't like go do crazy stuff in DeFi on Pendle. You can't pivot into MicroStrategies because you got to chop off,
Yeah.
33% or 30% right off the top as a capital gains. So we have this product where you send us 100 Bitcoin. I'm making just a big number to make it make sense. And then we repo you back 97 of our Bitcoin, which has a high tax basis. So we like keep your 100 Bitcoin in cold storage as collateral. And then we've given you this 97 Bitcoin that you can go do what you want with.
Mm.
Again, you can do Pendle, MicroStrategy, whatever. And then we've earned 3% interest or 3.1% interest, which is that like difference between 100 and 97. You've gotten a valuable service, but also we both have no credit risk
Gotcha.
because I have your collateral and you've already gotten the 97 Bitcoin. So if I go belly up, you've got the 97. If you go belly up, I have the 100.
Mm.
So it's basically just, we're sort of like trading basis in a legal way. Again, because of this like weird fact that Bitcoin isn't treated as a foreign currency under the
Yeah.
tax codes of Canada or the US or the UK or whatever, it's treated as a commodity.
Yeah.
And then you just like end up with these weird results. So we discovered this and discovered that we're the perfect counterparty because we can lend to people. Basically, what you want to do is you want to do this trade with us and you want to pay the carrying costs of 3%, and then you just want to die. You want to keep doing it forever, and then your kids will get a step up in basis. So actually, a life insurance counterparty is the perfect counterparty for this trade. So people trust us with doing this. But that's the kind of thing that we've tried to find. Like, how do we, whether it's like over collateralized lending or prime lending or just like ways to get yield that play off the fact that we have duration. But fundamentally, long term, we think that Apollo and JP Morgan and all of these people are going to be participating in a robust Bitcoin capital market. And like we're one of the like key and first players in that.
I love that. I mean, you and the team, and of course, doing prep for the show, one thing that you're huge on is the future of Bitcoin finance and how we need more Bitcoin-based financial services. Because right now, you really have like, you have your cold storage, you have your hodling, you have your lending, you have, I mean, the corporate treasury play is almost synonymous with the whole lending thing right now, but there's still not that much you can do with it, So like for someone like you guys to come in the space and actually give a real world, tangible is the wrong word because it's not tangible, you know what I mean? Tangible product is huge, and that's what we need more of.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that is just to say, like, in some ways we have not innovated at all on the business model of life insurance. And that may sound like really boring, but we've taken this like centuries old business model and we've injected this new innovative thing into it. But the core business model of like going to policyholders, asking them to trust us, making them promises, and then working to get long-term conservative yield, like that core fundamental business model is what we do. And we're just bringing that to Bitcoin. Now, it isn't sexy sometimes. It is not like day-to-day price movements or I don't know, like some crazy delta neutral options strategy or like whatever you get pitched. But for us, it's necessary.
It's a real business.
It's a real business.
Business that people need, right? Like you're getting in the game of mattresses and shoes and desks and computers. This isn't like just traditional crypto. Like people, unless you live in a country like where my girlfriend's from, Argentina, like you and I in North America, we don't need crypto. Like it really doesn't change our present day life in any capacity.
Let me say one thing on that, right? Which is like my first child was born in 2018. And if I bought a life insurance policy in 2018, I've seen the purchasing power of that policy go down 20-25%. So yeah,
Fair,
we
fair.
definitely pitch Argentina like as a prototypical example. Like if you're a middle class person in Argentina, you simply don't buy life insurance because you're going to live longer than the Argentinian peso, right? So it
Exactly.
doesn't make any sense to buy life insurance in Argentina. So like, yes, this global store of value just makes a hell of a sense. But what I'd also say is if you're an American or you're a Canadian or you're a Brit, like, you haven't fared that well on your currency being a durable store of value over the last 5, 6, 7 years either.
Especially Canada. Yeah. Zac, you're on a roll, a little tight for time here. Besides what you guys are doing, any other areas of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Fi, Bitcoin DeFi, or outside of Bitcoin, crypto in general, what else tickles your fancy present day?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that there's just a class of entrepreneurs and companies that are focused on building like these four financial services in whether it's Bitcoin land or crypto land. And those are the people I think I feel the most affinity with. So look, obviously, none of us, I think, would be here on some level without like Coinbase.
Yes, yes.
We use Anchorage for most of our custody. Like we think they're like super secure and they like went and got this difficult to get trust license. I think what David Marcus is doing over at Lightspark to really like use Bitcoin as a settlement layer is like super impressive. I don't know. Those aren't like exciting answers. Those are just like we, I'm paying a lot of attention to what's happening on L2s like Babylon, like LBTC. I think those are from our perspective still like early, but very interesting. So, that sort of thing. I don't know if you know this company Milo. They do like
Yeah,
Bitcoin-backed mortgages.
yeah.
It's my own biases, but I sort of look to these range of folks who are like us, like building comprehensible financial services, but in this new technology and with these like new stores of value.
Well said. Zac, any news? Next couple, I mean, your episode's going to air in 6 days on Monday the 9th, but any news popping off perhaps before or after?
Yeah, I guess the big news actually is on Thursday the 5th. We're releasing our audited financials. We're required to do that, but
Nice.
this is going to be the first set of financial statements that have ever been audited and are stated in Bitcoin.
Wow.
So there's no dollar sign. There's a little d. And our income
That's
statement,
wild.
our balance sheet, entirely in Bitcoin. And yeah, coming out on the morning of June 5th.
Fully in Bitcoin, like legit. There's no dollar
Fully in
sign.
Bitcoin. No dollars. In fact, our insurance company doesn't have a bank account on purpose. We just don't deal with dollars.
So wait, how do you guys pay employees and everything? Bitcoin?
Yeah, there's a separate company.
Got you. Okay.
Like a services company and there's a holding company, which is like where investors invest, and there are obviously some dollars. It's not so much the employees. I think the employees or some of us are fine with some Bitcoin. My insurance lawyer, which is at like a big firm, they haven't figured out how to build me in Bitcoin. So I do need some dollars.
Love it. Zac, appreciate you coming on here. Huge shout out to you and the team. And last thing, what countries can get involved with Meanwhile right now?
Yeah, this is actually to go back to the previous question. What are we working on? We are working on international expansion. We're working on launching annuity, deferred annuity. Just think of it as like a savings account in Bitcoin. Right now, if people come to our website, which is meanwhile.pm, and they're in the US, they're in Canada, they're in the UK, we can serve them. But as people listen to this podcast, like we are expanding to more countries, being able to serve more people. We have thousands of people on our wait list who are from all over the world. And like, that's one of our big goals for the year is to, open up our product to folks who want it in more places.
Love it. Folks, what an episode. Zac Townsend from the one and only Meanwhile, co-founder and CEO of Meanwhile. Guys, if you are into protecting your wealth and don't want to have some shitty fiat currency like CAD, which is slowly but surely turning into a shitcoin, go check out Meanwhile. And again, guys, I do not invest in this company. I'm not a part of this company in any capacity. I just really like what they're doing. And I think Zac and the team are doing a great job. And I would not bet against these guys. And I will actually be looking into this as well, as I do not have life insurance yet. And I should probably get on that. But huge shout out
We'd
to Zach and the
be
team.
happy to have you on board. Yeah.
Thank you, mate. Huge shout out to Zach and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. Hammer that like button. It would mean the world to the team and I. Speaking of the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And back to the listeners, keep on growing those bags. Get yourself some life insurance and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.